friends. This podcast episode is brought to you by my insatiable thirst for yellow mustard. Enter the promo code MUSTARD to save 50% off. Just kidding. Welcome to Arbor Creek's Battle Supreme. I'm Alex Ford. To my right,
David.
Across from me,
Frank.
to my left,
Larry.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you follow the podcast and leave us a rating review. And check out all our other stuff, all on arborcreektheband.com, all our social handles and stuff like that. One more exciting announcement. A little under 2 weeks away, we got a brand new single entitled Make Your Mind Up, which will be coming out August 26th. That is a Friday, and it'll be off our sophomore album entitled Thanks for Waiting. Make sure you check it out on all streaming platforms, and more specifically, if you guys can pre-save it on Spotify, it helps a lot with things like charting and also helps with the algorithm so more people can see our stuff. All right, David, take us away.
All right, people. We have a great matchup today on the Battle Supreme. We have two of the greatest bands in the history of music. Not even just rock and roll. I guess I would say in the history of music,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Like,
for sure.
Yeah, I would
undoubtedly.
Oh, for sure.
They're up there.
Yeah. So, today's episode is going to be the Beatles versus the Rolling Stones. Yeah, let that sink in. Let it
I was
sink
waiting
in.
for that.
They're definitely two bands that, like, when you think of the era, you definitely think of those two. Like, maybe not together, but you can't bring up the 60s without them.
Yeah, especially the 60s. I think you definitely, when you think 60s, those are like,
They're neck and neck.
I mean, the Beatles didn't last much longer than that, so.
Only the 60s.
Yeah. Anyway, let's just get right into it here. You guys know how this starts, so obviously we're gonna start out here with talking about vocals first. In the Beatles, you got quite a bit of different people singing. You got quite a few options to talk about here, and different styles of songwriting even in that. But with the Stones, it's Mick Jagger. That's all that can be said. It's Jagger, baby. You got the moves like him, you know what I'm saying?
Jagger!
So let's just start it off with Al, work our way around the circle. What are you feeling here on the vocals for the Beatles and the Stones?
All right. So, to me, it's kind of not a competition. It's almost a little unfair. I mean, but maybe not. Because when you do think about Mick Jagger, I do like his voice. And when you hear him sing, you know it's him. And he's one of the greatest frontmen of all time. And he definitely one-ups them all on that, like stage presence and all. Like me and Larry saw him twice. Me and Larry saw them, what was it, like 2016 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Dude changed wardrobe like 8 times. Kept going back, came out with a bunch of different stuff. And I like his gritty vocal style, and I do like that they got more of that bluesy American influence to them. But that being said, Paul McCartney has one of my favorite voices of all time. It's sweet like a freaking angel, and John Lennon is singing like he's freaking growling and boiling nails down there, but he can sound pretty too. And I got a lot of love for George Harrison because he honestly writes some of my favorite Beatles songs. I think he's very underrated as, he's definitely the third guy, because you got that Lennon-McCartney combo going on. And you know what? I got some love for Ringo too because, a lot of people like, oh, Ringo. All his songs are really freaking catchy, dude. And they're stuck in your head when they're on.
Fucking nursery rhymes, baby.
Exactly. Octopus is guarded. I'd like to be. And you can't even talk about freaking the background vocal. I can go on for this for hours. So, I'm just going to give you my answer because I'm sure you guys are going to say what I'm thinking. So I'm going the Beatles all the way 110%.
All right. I like it. I think it's a good assessment. Some good opinions there. Larry, who are you picking?
I mean, it's really like 4 against 1 Beatles because of all 4 of them sing.
Yeah.
So you already have 4 vocals as opposed to just Mick Jagger, who I love, and I love his attitude as a blues singer for being like an Englishman in the 60s. And so he's kind of standing there alone, against the whole entire band of the Beatles.
Totally.
So I'm going to go Beatles, but I do love Mick Jagger.
Yeah. Frank?
I mean, I'm in total agreement with Larry and Alex here.
Yeah.
The Beatles are just
I think we're
way
all on that.
way ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think we're all on that, especially when it comes to.
I do
the
believe Brian
vocals.
Jones did do background vocals though in the '60s.
Well, they had background vocals like
On some of
"This
their
is
stuff.
the
and to not to
last
mention all the sick choir stuff and like
True.
background vocals, like studio work that
Different
they had.
vocalists.
Yeah,
Liz.
Gimme Shelter and everything.
Dude, yeah, tons of really good stuff in there that we also should mention
Keith
with the
sings a few
Stones.
tracks. He sings a few tracks.
Yeah.
They're the deep cuts, but he sings.
Yeah, I will say that is. I don't think the Beatles ever really did like any choir stuff, right?
Besides them doing it themselves, which
Yeah.
is sick. But
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
like
know
that
what you
kind of thing. Like,
No.
cause like you know.
Yeah, they never really had
Floyd had
anybody
the
else outside
kids'
of
choir
the
and-
four of them, except for who? Billy Preston.
yeah, it was just them all the time.
Yeah.
Well, the Stones were touring and recording. The Beatles, at a certain point, were just recording.
recording,
They weren't
yeah.
leaving Apple Studios.
A little bit of an advantage there on the recording end, if you think about it.
True.
I mean, if you could lock yourself in the studio and not do anything else for like years, you'd probably be making really good records, you know. But lots of us bands got to play to survive, and I'm sure
Get the truth.
the Stones live in that rock and roll lifestyle. Well, the Beatles are gonna get the first point of today's matchup. Moving on to the guitar. Obviously, multiple guitar players in every band. We're not really looking at, I guess, technically just one, you know, because,
True.
you know, Lennon, Harrison. I mean, Harrison's kind of the main guy, but they both played. I mean, in the Beatles, they all played everything, really.
I was gonna say
Yep.
even
'Cause
Paul.
even Paul even played guitar and stuff. So it's like you can kind of just pick who you want to, you know, with that band, with anything, which is, you know, what makes them really special. And then on the Stone side, we got obviously Keith Richards, Brian Jones, and Ronnie Wood. So lots of guitar stuff going on here. Let's do the opposite, start Frank, and work our way around.
All right, I'll be honest. I'm not a real big Stones guy, but they do have some good stuff. Very rock and roll, very blues. But I got to give it to the Beatles. Also very rock and roll, also very blues. But the way they just laid their harmonies down, one person's going up the neck, one person's going down the neck. You know, the counterpoint of it all. It's beautiful.
Indeed.
Beatles.
All right. Larry, who are you picking?
That's a good question. I mean, I like them both. Keith Richards, I like his guitar tunings. Like, he plays a lot of open tunings. And he does a lot of really good acoustic blues, like on deep cuts on his albums that I really like. But the Beatles, they have the two guitar harmony thing. And they didn't really do that so much in the Stones, even though they had two players. But they kept that blues thing real with the slide work and stuff. Like, the Beatles never really did any of that. But the Beatles probably have a wider horizon of, like, sounds, I guess, like different genres. But as a blues player, I'll probably go Stones.
All right. Al, what's your take?
See, and I was thinking about that as Larry was speaking, because it's like, dude, when I think the Beatles, I think of the whole thing as one. And actually, okay, that's definitely Cap, because George Harrison's fucking awesome, and John Lennon's awesome. So it's definitely a little bit of Cap, but I think of them as a unison and what they bring to the table as far as the songwriting goes and stuff like that. But I think of Keith Richards as a guitar guy, you know what I mean? And honestly, Can You Hear Me Knocking is one of my favorite guitar riffs all time. Dude. Yeah, he's just got a charm about him. He's got grit, and he just, like, definitely reminiscent of, like, all the old blues guys. So I actually, this might be my only Stones pick for today. So I'm going to the Stones.
Don't speak too soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think I would probably lean towards the Stones on the guitar topic, just because I think of them more as a guitar band, and the Beatles, I just think of it's more musical in general, but I don't really think of it as like a rock guitar, blues guitar band, and like that's how I like my guitar, you know. And that's not to say that George Harrison didn't have amazing parts, and they had a lot of great stuff, but yeah, you know, the Stones got a lot of just really good guitar riffs, and I'm a sucker for that. So I would have to go there with you guys too. So I think again the Stones are gonna get the point in this one, the guitar. Next up, we're gonna move to the bass. The bass. Al, you're a bass guy. Give us the rundown here.
I just don't, like, I just don't think of Bill Wyman when I think of the Stones at all. Like, to be honest, like, he's not one of the standout guys. He wasn't in the band the whole time. And maybe, perhaps my favorite bass player is Keith Richards, because he plays on a lot of the stuff. Like, he really does. So I don't really have much to say about him, and not like in a bogus way. But I got a lot to say about Paul. And before we started this, we were kind of talking about it earlier, but he's so good at the bass, and no one even knows how good he is at the bass because he's so good at everything else and so good at writing songs. And when you think of a songwriter, you don't necessarily think of him being a bass player, but on all the Beatles songs, he plays just the sickest stuff. Like, notably, my favorite Paul McCartney bass line is probably Something, which is not a song he wrote, but I mean, you hear "Don't Wanna Leave," do 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 do. It's so sick, and it's like melodic, and he plays in the pocket at the same time. And I heard stories of him like going after hours and just crafting his stuff for hours, and he definitely is like. And maybe that makes him a better bass player because of his singing. He's playing to complement his singing as well. I don't know. I'm not him. But, yes, long-winded, but Paul McCartney for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Totally.
All yes.
Does anybody else have anything to add to that? I kind of feel like we're probably all going to have the same response on this one, but feel free to add what you would like.
Sing a bass line like I did.
Nah, yeah, Paul. Final answer.
Yeah, I mean, he's a GOAT.
Paul is the GOAT.
One of the greatest musicians of all time.
And he was
Phenomenal.
the walrus.
And I got a fun fact, but I'm going to save it for the bonus round
Ooh,
Okay.
related to Paul.
surprise.
Yeah. So Beatles going to take the bass round here. Now we're going to go on to the drums.
Oh,
Charlie
boy.
Watts, Ringo Starr. Frankie's a drum boy, so I'm going to hand it to him first to kick it off on this and tell us how you feel, you know.
I mean, all due respect to Charlie Watts, like R.I.P., but I hated the way he played the drums. He did this weird thing where every time he hit the snare, he wouldn't hit the hi-hat. So it'd be like, it would never be on the same thing. Now, whether or not that was a recording thing or how he learned or the style of music he played the most when he was younger, but Ringo Starr was at like the forefront of making drum parts for songs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like sometimes you don't even notice that it's a whole drum set on the song because he's not playing an actual beat. He's just laying the rhythms down behind. Plus, you have two guitar players that are playing simultaneously, doing harmonies. Then you have Paul playing everything in between. There's already so much rhythm happening in the band. And yeah, Ringo Starr, I mean, he's one of the GOATs, you know?
Definitely.
He really is.
Yeah, I think he is just. I mean, you got to give credit to the other members because I'm sure they influence a lot of that whole part making thing as well.
Oh, for sure.
But he executed it, and I think with the drums and the Beatles, it's just like take a song, like Ticket to Ride, and take away the drum part and just play a straight beat, and it's not as good of a song.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like in that song, it's got the like,
Doom, 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 doom.
it adds such a groove to it that
Well,
you wouldn't get if it was just a straight beat to it. You know,
And Ringo too. Like when they came to the States and they were playing, I watched the 8 Days a Week, the movie by Ron Howard. There was so much footage of them playing live, and there's things I'd never ever heard Ringo play, ever on the record. And he was playing some crazy shit, honestly. And I'm like, not crazy in the sense of like he was doing something crazy, but I've never heard him play like that or seen him play like that, especially in color too. It changed the way I looked at him, honestly. I felt like he was so like tampered down.
yeah, tamed.
Yeah,
you know?
very tamed for the band.
Yeah. Now you gotta play your part. You know.
True. This is true.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. Larry, you got any drum stuff to add on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ringo. I mean, I'm gonna go Ringo over Charlie Watt, 100%. BB King played with Ringo Starr once and said that he plays it's like playing to a metronome. So when you have BB King talking about your time, it's a pretty good compliment. So I'm gonna go Ringo. And what got me into hearing the drums from Ringo was "I Feel Fine." The doom doom doo 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 doom 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 doo doo. It was all like Ray Charles, like
Yeah.
Great one.
super cool. And when I heard that and I tried like air drumming it as a kid, I was like, man, Ringo's really going crazy. Yeah, Ringo Starr.
All right, that's fair. Al, how you feeling about the drums in both these bands? What do you like?
Honestly, love both drummers. I mean, I know you're talking about the snare and the hi-hat thing, honestly, but one of my favorite drum intros of all time is "Get Off My Cloud."
Yeah.
And they opened it when we saw him. It's sick.
Yeah,
Definitely,
it's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely great, but I wouldn't call him like, innovative. And like for the time, Ringo was definitely innovative drummer. And like, yeah, he didn't play like just your straight thing. I mean, maybe more in the beginning he did like but he was very melodic and calculated with his drumming. And there were some songs where he just played the kick drum. That's all it was needed. Or like "Take It the Ride," or freaking even like "Come Together."
Yeah.
I mean, it's sick. And then let's not even talk about like he could play like a freaking Helter Skelter. Like, it's just loud rock.
Very
drumming.
heavy.
And that was one of the heaviest songs at the time, bar none. Honestly,
He swang hard.
they did it all first. That's the craziest part about the Beatles. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go Ringo for sure.
On that note of the Beatles did it first thing, it is really crazy when you think about how they kind of launched the psychedelic rock thing before anybody really got
All did that.
yeah, and before it really became a thing.
Yep.
It's like you think of like Woodstock in '69. It's like the Beatles were out of that phase at that point.
Yeah.
Like they were already done with that. You
Get
know?
back to the roots.
Yeah, at that point they were like, yeah, we're done with all that. We're just gonna play some rock music and write good songs, you know. So yeah, they definitely were always ahead of the curve. You could say pioneers, big influencers, and you know it definitely seemed like at a point in time in the '60s the Stones were trying to follow what they were doing sometimes, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think the Stones didn't really blossom until after like the Beatles' career was done. And I feel like that's when the Stones really fell into like we're the Rolling Stones, you know?
Yeah, that's when they got huge.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't trying to play catch up anymore. They were just doing their own thing finally.
Exactly. So, which it doesn't discredit anything they did early on. It was also really good, but you know, I feel like there's a little point in time where they kind of like got off track and seemed a little like strange, and then it all clicked for them, you know. But yeah. So are we all going Ringo on this one, yeah?
Ringo.
Richard Starkey.
All
Oi, oi.
All right. Next up, we're gonna do debut albums. So we're talking what? Please Please Me, and the Rolling Stones self-title.
It was like the Rolling Stones #2. It had or something like
something like that.
Yeah, it had Times on My Side on it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, but that was the notable one.
A lot of covers.
A lot of covers.
A lot of cover. It had blues. I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. Which I love that shit.
God bless.
Yeah. So
Well, we haven't started with Larry yet, so I'm gonna kick this one to the L Dog, the Lair Bear, as the ladies call him. You know what I'm saying?
What up?
LKH3 baby.
I mean, you know.
Larry.
He's a Larry. He's a living like
Anybody
rock.
who listens,
Living like rock stars, share.
if anyone listening ever sees Larry, make sure you say his name like that, because that's what we all do. You know?
Larry.
the only way.
Larry.
So, rookie album. Honestly, I'm looking now, and I'm thinking the Stones. Like, I just like that blues, but I do love Please Please Me. And if we're going to talk about, like, bigger groundbreakers, I would say the Beatles for sure. I mean, the Beatles just shattered everything in sight. I mean, I don't think the Stones ever on that magnitude at that time. I don't think that. I don't know that, but that was just my thought. I would go personal vote Stones, but I feel like the Beatles album was definitely bigger for
It could be personal.
for what
Oh,
they
yeah.
were.
We love the bias. That's totally fine.
But yeah, I'm gonna
Makes
go with
things more
Stones.
interesting.
I think the Beatles have better later albums than the Stones have later albums, but as far as the first album, I'll go Stones.
All right. Al, what are you thinking?
So for me, I'm definitely gonna go with the Beatles on this. Well, one, it's just a great album, and it was one of the first CDs I've ever had, so that has a lot to do with it too. But I mean, come on, let's go from number one. I saw her standing there,
Boom.
Misery, making me bad in misery, and I go to him, Chains, friggin' Please Me, duh,
Love Me Do.
Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You. I mean, Twist and Shout.
There's a place.
There's a place. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's just a great album, and I like every single era of the Beatles, and like I don't. But also, the Stones are one of those bands where I forget how many songs I like until like I'm really diving in, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I really do like all of them. But for me, the biggest highlight on that one would be "Time Is on My Side," and then honestly, it's a classic. So it's a sick ass song, and they got that cover of "Under the Boardwalk's" pretty sick. But yeah, I'm definitely going with "Please Please Me" for me.
All right. That's a good assessment. Frank, if you got to make a choice, who you choosing?
Gun to my head. I'm going with Please Please Me.
Hell yeah.
Just a obvious pick. There's like 5 like lifetime songs on that album.
This is very true.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't make the rules. I just follow them.
You know. Yeah, I mean, I probably lean towards the Beatles on this, but I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of the early Beatles, although they have some great songs. I definitely prefer later in their career.
There was a lot of love songs.
Yeah,
like,
but
every
that's
song's
the
about
time.
a girl. Yeah, true.
See,
What
I
else?
love
What
all
else
of it.
was there at that time?
Yeah.
You know, so you can't, But I do love the fact that the Stones really started out like covering blues music and playing really blues like rooted music, and that I love that stuff, and the whole Muddy Waters thing, and that's where the name's coming from. It's like for me it's tough when I think of it like in that aspect, but clearly the Beatles album was the more successful like debut. So I mean, I think I have to go with that either way.
Yeah.
So Beatles are gonna take that. They're gonna take the point.
Ooh.
Now, the 1-point round is finished. We're going to move on to the 2-point round.
Dose, baby.
Double.
Two
So this is usually
points.
where the show really starts to take a turn because the questions are worth more, and you can really run away with it in this 2-point round, But don't forget the bonus. The bonus round is the real game changer. You could be completely out of it and come back in the bonus round, realistically, because
In case we feel like being dickheads.
if we want someone to win, they're gonna win. That's the point of our show. We're telling you guys who our favorite is, and that's the bottom line, baby.
We don't make the rules; we follow them.
Yeah. All right. First question. We're gonna do. I kind of changed up some of this here from the last couple episodes. We're going to do song versus song first here. And I decided to go with 2 popular, kind of different. Just hear me out. So if you had to choose which song you like more and think is the better song, would you go with Paint It Black by the Stones, sorry, or Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles?
Those are 2 totally different songs that I thought you would have picked.
That's why I went with it. I was like, let's get a little different here and kind of like make it an interesting debate,
So, hold on though. You got other songs coming later, or is this the song? This is just the song.
This is the song versus song.
So when I think about the song versus song, before we go into it, I totally thought you would do like "Hey Jude" versus "You Can't Always Get What You Want." or
Yeah,
something, like the
Sympathy
anthem.
Well,
You know what I mean?
because that's what I kind of been going for, but I want to change it up. I want to keep it fresh here a little bit. So I
yeah.
I just went with 2 also big songs, but like completely kind of different. You know?
Painted Black versus Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah.
Okay. Who first? You know what? I'm Bogarting. I got this.
Take it.
So I'm definitely, honestly, I said that might have been my last Stones, but I'm definitely going with Painted Black. That song's sick. That song's badass.
Yeah.
And I love Here Comes the Sun too. It's a great song, but I mean, I want to see you painted. It's just powerful.
Yep.
It's got that, we were talking about, they were trying to do that like psychedelic thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that in there. It just goes harder. So yeah, I go who goes harder. So Stones.
Sounds like Vietnam.
All right, Larry.
Yeah, I'm
Paint
gonna
It
go
Black or Here Comes the Sun.
I'm gonna go Paint It Black, Rolling Stones, because of the sitar.
Oh, I like that.
There's a sitar in there that just kind of gives it the whole like next level '60s idea, and I just think that's awesome. I love Here Comes the Sun, great song, but no, Rolling Stones.
Awesome. Frank, what are you thinking?
If I'm being honest, I would pick neither of these songs when I play them. Like if I were to just put the band on.
Yeah.
But going off my memory, like where I've heard the song sometimes in movies, I'm gonna go with Paint It Black.
Awesome.
Just the start of the song is pretty sick. And then when the drums kick in, it's fucking thriving.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You hear the acoustic. Everything's layered really well too in the track.
I agree completely. So, part of the reason I chose these songs, here's a fun fact. Both of these songs are the most streamed songs by both of these artists.
I could see Here Comes the Sun was on a lot of movies,
Yeah.
dude. Commercials.
Here Comes the Sun is the most streamed
Commercials.
Beatles song, and Painted
Commercials.
Black is the most streamed Rolling Stone song. So
Wow.
that was kind of also what did it for me, because I was like, you know what, that's kind of interesting that these are the most like streamed songs by these artists. So let's just put them up against each other. And I would totally agree with you guys. I'd go Painted Black. I just think it's a great tune. And Here Comes the Sun is awesome, but it lacks a little bit for me. You know, I don't think it's like anywhere near the best song.
This is the interesting part about that song is when I hear it on movies and stuff. For the most part, I feel like it's not actually the Beatles version; it's a cover. But
There are a lot of-
it's a good song.
There's a
That's
lot
what
of
it is.
Beatles covers though in
Yeah,
general. you know,
exactly.
so.
It's usually like a girl singing it all happy. Maybe it's a different key.
Like an orchestra
I
or
mean,
something.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, shit. There was a point in time where if you wanted to be a singer or an artist, you just covered Beatles songs to like make that happen. Like that's literally what people did. I mean, like that was literally a thing, you know? Like it was like you're a singer, you go record label, they're like, all right, we'll cut a couple Beatles songs, see how that goes, and then we'll see you from there. Like literally, I mean, so many people. But yeah, Stones are gonna take song versus song. Up next for 2-pointers, we're gonna do one of those statistic-based points. So take a guess at which band you think had more number ones on the Billboard. More number one songs.
See, this could be a trick question or not, because the Stones have been around obviously longer. So this is about to be.
Yeah, I mean, just take your guesses and we'll talk it out. Let's start with Frank.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Beatles.
Right.
Specifically, like the very early years, like they were cranking them out, boom, 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 one after another. That's why they got so big. They just blew up. Like
I believe they
literally
have the record, which I think was just tied technically for the first time, where they had 3 number one albums in the same year, like that reached number one in the same year.
Yeah.
And I think that BTS,
the Korean band.
the pop group, I think they're the first group to like break that record. I could be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure I heard that as was a thing. So if I'm a little bit off on that, sorry, but I'm pretty sure that's a thing. I'd have to look it up or something, but yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. The Beatles were crazy hot. Like, I mean, we all know. We've seen the Screaming Girls.
They were like a shooting star.
Yeah. All right, Larry.
Was it number one song or number one album?
Songs. We're doing songs.
I think the Rolling Stones had more by a hair. I think it's going to be close.
All right.
But because kind of what Al said, I just feel like the longevity of the Rolling Stones
Yeah, I mean that would make
would
sense.
put them on top, just that fact alone. But I don't think it's going to be by a landslide because I know the Beatles had a bunch. I mean, I don't know that, but I'm sure they do. And I don't think that would be easy. But I'm going to go Rolling Stones.
All right. I mean, longevity is totally a factor.
Yeah.
I feel you there. Al?
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing them both in just the 60s, then 110% be the Beatles, but just the fact that the Rolling Stones are still playing today, I'm going with the Stones. And I like Larry said, it's not by a landslide, though, because the Beatles, like, broke out, like, hot and heavy. So, yeah, Stones, my guess.
All right. We got one Beatles versus two Stones on the guesses here. Well, the Rolling Stones had 8 number 1 hits.
Beatles had, like, 15.
The Beatles had 20.
Oh, my
Fuck.
God.
It is
Damn.
by a landslide.
So it is a landslide 2-pointer.
In a percentage of the time, the Rolling Stones.
In a percent, you're right.
Yeah.
Like a fifth of
Yeah.
the time. Maybe even a sixth of the time.
Wow.
8 years.
Yeah, 20.
Wow.
And I didn't write down the top 10, but I think it was like the Beatles had 70-something songs that charted, like made the charts, not number 1.
Yeah.
And the Stones had like 50-something songs that charted. So
Still, that's a
they're
lot.
about 20 songs off when it comes to like reaching the charts in general with singles. So either way, that's pretty crazy when you think about the short span of the Beatles' career.
Yeah.
But how powerful it is still to this. I mean, they still sell like over 1 million albums a year, the Beatles, which is like absolutely crazy when you think about it. Next. So we're going to do album versus album. I have to read my handwriting here. What did I even write?
What did they even write?
So, for the Stones, doing the Sticky Fingers. That was my choice. And we're going to do Let It Be for the Beatles. Sticky Fingers versus Let It Be. I think these are two really good albums. And I think they're a good matchup when you really look at them. Because some of the catalog of both these bands, it's hard to compare. And some of it is, like, I feel like one artist succeeds a little bit more in certain aspects of music. Like, the Beatles are a little bit more well-rounded. So if you're going with albums that have a different type of sound and style, I feel like they have an edge over the Stones in that. But I feel like Sticky Fingers and Let It Be can be somewhat comparable of albums in a way. So I want to give it to Al first. Sticky Fingers or Let It Be. If you had to choose, let's put it this way. If you had to pick
Desert
one of
Island.
them on the desert island and you could only listen to one of these albums, which one are you going to go with? You know?
Honestly, we were talking about this earlier. That like the 3 back-to-back albums, like Beggar's Banquet and Let It Bleed and Sticky Fingers, is just like they're fucking bangers.
Oh, yeah.
Let It Bleed. So like Sticky Fingers is definitely undoubtedly one of my favorite Stones albums. I mean, from the start with Brown Sugar, you know, Can't You Hear Me Knocking, like I said earlier, is probably like my favorite Stones song. It's just fucking epic. Wild Horses is on it. Death Flowers, great song. All of it's good. But I don't know, dude. You just can't go wrong with the Beatles. Like, to me, it's like, and this is almost for every band, besides maybe like a select 5. There's always a song I'm going to skip. Like, maybe not every album, but like, there's always a song I don't like from every band. I love every Beatles song, period. There's not one I don't like. So for that reason, I'm going to Let It Be. You got 2 of us. I Mean Mine, Maggie May, Dig a Pony, Dig It. I Got a Feeling, Across the Universe, a banger. We used to cover that in our younger years. Let It Be's on it, obviously.
Yeah.
One After 909. I mean, it's freaking gas. Just from the beginning. I know a lot of it was like outtakes, and they were like not really like into it at that point, and it's like not people's, I guess, perhaps favorite album, but I like all of it.
But just think, those are just their outtakes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, like it's fucking wild.
You watch the movie, they getting together and they don't even have songs. Like, and we don't have songs, and we come out with fucking Let It Be. That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
Paul always got songs,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
always.
you know. All right, Larry, if you have to choose one on the desert island and you get to only keep one album to listen to for the rest of your days, which one are you going to choose?
Well, that kind of. I mean, I would pick, if that's the case, I would pick Let It Be. But if we're talking about just overall albums, like if I can listen to any album out of both bands, out of the two, I think that the Rolling Stones album is better as far as the Rolling Stones albums than that album.
Yeah.
Than Let It Be is for the Beatles. But shout out The Long and Winding Road for being probably one of my favorite Beatles songs. But if I'm stuck on an island, I'm gonna go with the Beatles. But if we're albums between the two bands, including their whole catalog, I'll go Stones.
That's a great way to look at it, like an interesting take. Like I would totally agree where like
Yeah, I agree with
Sticky
that.
Fingers is like the better album of the Stones versus the Let It Be not being the better album of
Right.
the Beatles, you know.
But I still think that Let It Be is probably a better album.
And that just shows you
Yeah.
it's that good that if that's your choice, then it's obviously
they're
you
that
know,
good.
They're that good.
They're that good for sure. I do love Sticky Fingers though.
Oh yeah,
They
that's-
have great
that's a
songs
one.
on there. Moonlight Mile, Deep Cut. I love that. I love You Gotta Move or I Gotta Move, whatever it is. The cover, the old blues cover, great.
Hell yeah. All right, Frank.
Wild Horses is not one of my favorite songs. I just really like it.
Yeah.
And
great.
like I said earlier, I'm not a big Stones guy, but Wild Horse, the song is really good. But in comparison, I would say that Let It Be is like Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy. It's almost like it could be a greatest hits album because every song is unskippable. But it's also not the Beatles' best album.
Yeah.
But in this case, I would pick Let It Be. I mean, just starting the album off with Two of Us, amazing song. I mean, every song on that record is, I mean, you can't really beat it.
Yeah, it's hard.
You have to let it be.
Yeah, every Beatles album is unskippable. Every one to me.
Yeah, Let It Be is probably one of the greatest songs of all time. I
Yeah.
mean, you could debate that obviously, but for me, it's definitely in the conversation. And if it's not in your conversation, man, you got to figure something out because that's just, I mean, you could be like, oh, it's overplayed. I've heard it so many times. It's like, yeah, because it's that good.
Yeah, but how often do you hear the Beatles on the radio anymore? You know what I'm saying?
That's true. It's true.
You know, like
I mean,
you
I
know-
don't even listen to the radio.
This is true.
I
But-
I enjoy it when I do listen to the radio, but it's like with my car. I mean, my phone hooks up automatically. It goes straight to Spotify. So where we live in now. I mean, I do enjoy hearing the radio every now and then, and I do kind of miss listening to like the morning shows and like them talking and all the goofing and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just kind of fell out of that. But maybe
Gets
I should
old.
maybe I should give it a shot again just to change things up. But yeah, I think the Beatles are definitely taking this one. Sorry, Stones fans. Clearly, we like the Beatles a little bit more in this group here, you know. But
But the thing is, like, I love the Rolling Stones.
yeah, we really do.
But I love the
like-
Beatles that much, though. That almost nobody would win against the Beatles for me.
Yeah,
So.
it would be tough. I mean, there's definitely a few I think I could pick over the Beatles, but it'd be hard. It'd be real hard. Only like two maybe. And we're gonna go into the 3-point round here. This is where we're gonna really see the truth of the battle. You know, I feel like the 3-point round is like where it really comes down to like the true answers here.
High stakes.
So, the first question, classic question: which band has more influence on our band, Arbor Creek? And I want to just start this off because I feel like we're all probably going to be in the same picture on this, but I just have one thing to say right off the bat. Personally, not for the whole band, but like it's almost one of those things where it's like the Stones influence me more than the Stones do.
Yeah.
And that's why they can't win this category for me. I mean, not to be like that, but I mean, it's fair though. It's a fair assessment, but that's just personal.
It's a great point.
But that's the way I look at that. It's like I could say they influence me in aspects and stuff. I'm not and for anyone out there, if I got to give a real opinion here, I'm not a fan of the over the top frontman thing. And Mick Jagger's great at it, and I understand it, and I totally get it, and I mean it's entertaining. It's just not my style. Like you're never gonna see me running around the stage dancing like that. I mean, I'll headbang, like I'll get into it, but he's just a little too much for my taste, and so he doesn't have an influence on me in that aspect. Where some frontmen are like, fucking Mick Jagger, dude, like he's the guy. It's like, yeah, I understand that he is the guy for a certain style of frontman, So it just doesn't influence me. Where I think the Beatles have a bigger influence on me, like musically and just overall. So that's my take right off the bat. Al, what do you got here? Who do you think's more influential on our band?
I mean, I definitely agree what you said about like maybe bands they influence me more. I mean, on the band as a whole, I mean, we're definitely more of a blues band, but I mean, I'm just a bigger Beatles fan, and every time, like, everything I do approaches to us, like, working on songs together, me crafting bass lines, how we go about anything, I literally say in my head sometimes, what would Paul do? Dead ass. So, like, to me, like, it's definitely, like, the Beatles 100%, most specifically Paul McCartney, because out of all of them, like, personally to me, like, I love all of them, and I love all their solo albums, but Paul has a special place in my heart, so... Like me as a musician and us as a band, I'm picking Beatles.
Paul is my favorite.
Paul's
Beatle.
the best Beatle.
He's my favorite.
Yeah,
Beatle.
My opinion.
George Harrison.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta go George.
They're
it
all
doesn't
great,
matter.
though.
They're all
Yeah.
great. Everyone has a preference, but I'm a Paul guy. Al's a Paul guy. I think Frank's also with us.
He's kind of a John Lennon guy, though.
Yeah, you do like
I mean,
Lennon.
I really love George Harrison's solo stuff too, but
Yeah,
as far
it's
as the Beatle, the best Beatle, it's Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But best solo stuff, I might say
I
Yeah.
might say John sometimes.
George or John too.
yeah, I'm
Dude,
still
John-
Paul. I'm still
Yeah,
Paul.
I know.
Paul,
I
yeah,
Still Paul.
It's all fire. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's
Like,
all good,
It's hard.
though.
It's hard to pick.
pretty
It's just
amazing,
it's
really.
just a preference of style.
It's different
at that
moods
point.
too. Like
Yeah.
if you're feeling kind of lackadaisical or kind of sad, throw on
Yeah.
a George album. Or
Yeah,
if you're
George-
feeling
George will get you
feisty, put on a Lennon album.
For sure. Yeah.
If
That's
feeling
like,
kind of silly, put
all
on a
rock.
Paul album.
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
dude, and I get a quick shout out. Underrated album. Flaming Pie. Listen to
Yeah,
that shit.
We love that one.
Got that shit when I was 13 years old, and it's one of the albums no one talks about. It's fucking great.
Yeah, and all the stuff he did with Jeff Lynne working together is just amazing.
Yes.
Honestly, it's just so good. I think they're one of those like it's insane when you think about that Paul and John created the idea of like songwriting super team. And then like Paul basically got to do it again with another person.
Yeah.
Like literally, like the fact that you could even find one that works, and he basically had a whole nother section of his music career where he had another like insane songwriting partner that they just clicked and just wrote amazing music. It's incredible, honestly. That's just crazy. So, Larry, who's got the more influence on us?
The
What are you
Beatles.
thinking?
We cover more Beatles songs than we do Stone songs. I'm not even sure we've ever covered a Stone song, but we've attempted to play.
We've messed around
We've
on
talked,
them.
we've talked.
Yeah,
We've jammed on some.
but we've attempted a lot of Beatles covers, and then just that on top of everything that you guys said. So yeah, Beatles.
No, Frank.
drummer wise, I wouldn't really say either of the drummers influenced my direct playing. But I will say on these last batch of songs we did for the second record, I was watching the Let It Be documentary, and I was just really into the Beatles right before we were doing those songs. So I took a very straightforward approach, like Ringo Starr would have, kind of just, what do you hear in the song? What do you want to play to the song? Like, we're not playing live. It's a different vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And then as far as like creating songs or thinking of ideas, like the Beatles do come into play more than I like to admit, just because they were the goats at that shit, man. Like they just,
I mean, 20 number ones says
Yeah.
it all right there.
yeah,
man. I mean,
it's wild.
They got the algorithm.
some of the greatest songs.
Before it was a thing, they knew how to do it.
I mean, it's almost suspicious to where there's conspiracies about the
there are.
Beatles because it's like, how could a band be so good? So, I mean, that alone is kind of wild.
The world's first industry plant.
Yeah. Were they even real?
Hey man,
Is
quote,
Paul alive?
they were bigger than Jesus.
Death
You don't say
threats.
that.
He said, "You don't say that."
Don't say that.
Yep. Well, Beatles are going to take the first 3-pointer,
Boom,
which
shakalaka.
they're definitely running away with this one. There's no lying there. Next up, which band had the bigger impact on music as a whole?
Can we just
Al.
answer this for everybody? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
On the count of 3.
dog. Yeah, let's
1, 2, 3. Beatles.
by a literally by a landslide above everybody.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's a more influential band in existence than. I mean, they literally created the pop song format, the formula. They literally created the boy band thing that has resurged every generation, basically. I mean, there really isn't. They were the first, I mean, you can say they're the first rock stars, but rock star band,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It wasn't just the individual, it was the whole crew.
I mean,
The suits and the hair.
you could make an argument that maybe the Stones are more influential on rock and roll music specifically.
Yeah.
I'd give them that. I'd say they're more influential on rock music, but as music as a whole, definitely the Beatles. Yeah.
They were the first mania.
Yeah.
Beatle mania.
Yep.
Anything else mania came after them. They influenced wrestling, damn it. WrestleMania. they influenced everybody.
WrestleMania. Hulkamania, baby.
Fucking pop culture. Not
Yeah,
just music.
brother.
Like pop culture. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. So I think that's an easy one. Well, it's about that time. We're going to get here into the bonus round. So get your creative thinking caps on. And if anybody's got some good bonus points they want to throw out there for any value and any reason, let's hear it. Anybody want to just kick it off? Who's got some?
I'll go. So it's 5 each, no?
Whatever you want.
You can do up to 5.
Okay.
But if you just want to do 1-pointers, you can. But just keep it 5 or less.
I want to give a shout out to the Rolling Stones for playing with Muddy Waters and really living the blues and playing it till you die, literally, because they're still playing it today and they will play the blues until they die, and I believe that. I want to give them points for that.
How many?
I'll give him 4 points.
All right.
And then I'm going to give another point just to make it 5 for Keith Richards just being him who he is.
Being alive.
Yeah, just being alive and still just doing it. And he doesn't give a fuck. So,
Again, rock and roll.
yeah.
I mean,
so
they're the rock and roll band.
right on for that. And they got the attitude. But I want to give a shout out to the Beatles for we were talking about Here Comes the Sun earlier, how it was covered. Richie Havens.
Ooh.
Richie Havens does so many good Beatles covers. Here Comes the Sun was one that came to my head, but he does Strawberry Fields at
that's the
Woodstock.
one.
It's unbelievable. So there's points for the Beatles for that cover and just being covered in general. I'm gonna
Denver.
yeah, I mean everyone who's anyone, and I want to give another point to Paul for being with Michael Jackson, recording with Michael Jackson.
Oof.
Well, he did get all of his stuff stolen from him.
Yeah. But I mean the song,
Say.
Oh my god.
Shit, he made a song with Kanye.
True.
Yeah, dude.
That is true too. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give.
I love
Alright.
when Kanye puts a shining light on new people.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
I'll give him points for that. We'll go a point for each of that. So a point for
I got it.
Richie. Yeah. Okay, you got it.
I'm following you.
He's picking up what you laid down.
All right.
Anybody else? What you got? What
I'm
you
gonna
got?
I'm gonna give 5 points to Mick Jagger's lips.
Ding ding ding.
And I'm gonna give Beatles. 3 points just for A Hard Day's Night, the movie.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, it's hilarious.
Yes.
It really is funny. I mean, all their movies were funny, but Hard Day's Night, yeah, I don't know, it's wild. Like they're a famous band and they make a movie. Plus they're all like actually funny. Like they're not like trying too hard. Yeah.
If only they had those Mick Jagger lips, you know.
If only.
Yeah.
They had the mop tops though.
Seduction.
Smooches all around.
I'm gonna give some before Al goes. So I'm just gonna do 1-pointers. But I got 2 for the Beatles, so I'll start there. Paul McCartney has the most #1 albums for any single musician ever.
Really?
Ever.
Even still today?
Yeah.
Goat.
Wow.
From his time in the Beatles, the Wings, and solo, he has 27 #1 albums, which is the most of any single musician.
Goat.
I could actually believe that, but
Yeah.
it is crazy.
Well, when you think about the Beatles having so many, that's like the launching point, and then
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Right.
he absolutely killed it from there. So, yeah, I think that just deserves to be talked about. I think that is really a cool thing. And I also got the Beatles another point because John and Paul wrote "I Want to Be Your Man," which is a Stones song from the early days. And the Stones manager literally like reached out to the Beatles and was like, "I need you to write a song for this band." So because it's a battle between the two, you got to give them the point because I mean they're obviously writing songs for them. So
That's a boss move.
It's a boss move, power move, you know.
Power
Check
move.
That's a flex.
mate.
That's a
So I had
flex.
to give them the point on that one.
Major bag alert.
Major bag alert.
Bag alert.
Any more?
Yeah. I was gonna kind of go in the same direction with the whole Muddy Waters Blues thing, but I guess I could like somewhat change it up and just say that I'm gonna give the Stones a point for being just absolutely rock and roll to the core. Like they personify what people look and consider to be rock stars.
No gimmicks.
Yeah, they live it. They still do. They're still playing. They are absolutely the most rock and roll band in the history of our lifetime, and they definitely deserve tons of credibility for that. So I'm giving them a point on just that alone because they're just badass, dude. They're absolutely badass. But yeah, that's my bonus points.
Sweet.
Al, what are you gonna do here?
So, both bands are getting 5. I'll tell you why. So, 2 points to the Stones because they are on the Sgt. Pepper cover, and the Beatles are thanking them. That's tying them both together, and clearly they're thanking them for something. Rumor has it they helped cover up that Paul was dead,
Ooh.
which is
Spicy.
none of you know. He is William Shears Campbell. So the guy you're seeing today, the Paul you're seeing, it's not Paul McCartney. Hate to break it to you.
It's fall. Paul McCartney.
Yeah, Billy Shears. That's him. Giving another 2 points to the Stones. Honestly, what you guys said, they rep the blues, and I love that shit.
Yeah.
And they got their name from Muddy Waters.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
fucking
I
sick.
mean,
And then one more point, which would make it 5, is I quit smoking cigarettes. I haven't had one in 4 years, and I seriously won't have one again. But the one exception is if I could smoke one Keith Richards, I probably would cave. Like
Yeah.
if he gave me a fucking stange, I'd smoke it. with
yeah,
Hell yeah.
I mean, that's
anyone he'd like.
That's part of his thing.
That's what I would do. That's the one. Julia, listen to this. One cigarette I would have. Keith Richards. That's it. And then
Can't blame you there.
it's sick. It says, once a lifetime thing. And then giving 5 points to the Beatles. 1 point for Ringo, 1 point for George, 1 point for John Lennon for just fucking existing because they're amazing, and 2 for Paul because I love him the most. So that's 5.
Fair enough.
Love that
I love
shit.
it. Yeah, man. I mean,
I actually have one more extra point
Fuck it.
for Mick Jagger again. for being in his 70s and having a kid like a year or two ago with like a 20-something-year-old.
Savage.
More power to
Crazy.
you, man.
That is crazy.
Have at it.
Like I said, rock and roll, brother.
Rock and roll, man. He's got like 8 kids.
It's insane. It really is.
Wildin'.
He got the money, so he could probably have 100 kids.
He's got the moves.
He does have the moves.
He's got the moves. He's got the money. He's got it all.
Shattered.
The lips, man.
Yeah.
Except for
Oh, we
Shadow-
didn't even talk about that. Okay, so anyone who's listening, I just got to get it off my chest. The song "Shattered" by the Rolling Stones is probably my least favorite song of all time. I absolutely hate it. I cannot stand it. I think it is this complete trash.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
I
matter.
can't stand it.
Doesn't
It's
matter.
so bad.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know it doesn't matter, but I mean, I just had to get off my chest for people who are listening. I really can't stand
You're just gonna
it.
talk.
Dude. Like if you go listen to it, go really listen to it, and just tell me it's not awful.
Cocaine, dude. That's why it's so bad.
It has to be a complete coked out song. It's terrible. I can't do that one. I'm sorry, but they got a lot of good ones, and that one's just not it for me. Yeah,
It's a no for me.
feels
dog.
good to put that out in the world. I've been holding it in. I, mean, I know you guys know how I feel, but
Keeps him up at night.
yeah, it really does. The worst part is that it gets played on the fucking radio. I'm like, what?
I just
You know?
imagine you laying in bed, he's like sleeping, also his eyes like open, it's like, shattered. And it's like echoing. He's just like, get out of my head.
Yeah, man, I can't do that.
He gets
one,
like
man.
chills up his spine. He's like, ooh.
Never felt that way about a Beatles song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Never
That's
felt
true.
that way
I never
about
have,
a Beatles
yeah.
song at all.
I definitely. Yeah, there's not one that
So-
I can't stand like that. I think that's gonna wrap up our bonus round, and we have a winner. And we have a winner by 1 point.
Oh my god! Again?
Yes,
Jesus Christ!
The fucking bonus
this
round.
is a good one. The bonus round is what does it. I'm telling you, like we could sit here and we could talk skill, we could talk whatever, but it doesn't matter.
Those
'cause
bonus points.
The bonus points are gonna get you. They really are. Our winner today is going to be the Beatles by 1 point, 26-25.
Gotta love the bonus
I was
round.
worried that
Frank was
my
sweating.
I was worried that my extra bonus, that my last bonus point for the extra having
Mick
the
Jagger.
baby.
The Stones one, I have
I
to do
thought-
the
I
first
thought that
round,
sent
I
it
got
over the
fucking
edge. She
rigged.
said,
We're redoing the episode. Turn it off.
I want my point back.
I think it's an accurate representation. I mean, obviously, in our opinion, the Beatles take the edge in this. It's just more of our opinion, I guess. I think we all just take a huge influence on the Beatles. I think we've all been listening to the Beatles our entire lives, and it's just they have some of the best songwriters to ever exist. It's hard to top that. It's hard to beat it.
True facts.
Final thoughts on either of the bands? Anybody?
Anybody? Anything?
I
want to talk about George Harrison real quick.
All right, go ahead.
Because I didn't say anything when you guys were talking about him earlier. Out of all the guitar players that we listed talking about the guitar, I said Rolling Stones. But take George Harrison out of the Beatles. George Harrison is my favorite guitar player that we talked about tonight. I just wanted to say that.
Fair
His
enough.
slide work.
I mean,
Fire.
all of his work, really, yeah. But I took Stones overall for talking about the band.
But if we really want to get into that, he was a little weird. I think he was not very confident in himself.
He was in his feels.
I think if he was more confident in himself, he would have been even better.
How
Yeah, he's
confident would you be?
He was
going up
emo,
against Paul
dude.
and Lennon.
Yeah,
Trying to
Ahead
get
of
your
the
songs
times.
out there.
But
you
you're the
know?
guy, you know?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, dude, but you're going against fucking David Drilling, Alex Ford, and Larry Huff, and you're like, I'm fucking Frank.
Yeah, just gotta be
Gotta
confident.
bring that
you know?
energy.
You know, I think he's scared of Clapton.
You
Well,
know,
didn't
I
Eric
was
Clapton
able to
steal
listen.
his wife
I
or
was
something
able to
like that?
listen to the Beatles
yeah,
and
that's
I don't know if he
confidence,
stole
too.
it. Like they might have broken up.
I mean,
or
that probably
something.
that
like,
definitely
it was a
bust
homie.
your confidence.
That's
What?
a homie law. You don't do that.
yeah.
George Harrison playing guitar with Eric Clapton, and then Eric Clapton just steals his wife.
Layla.
Hey, he was cold. It's pretty cold.
Savage.
It is cold, but hey, it's rock and roll. Rock and roll doesn't care. Don't
But
care
I
about
like
your
it.
feelings.
You know what? I got a final thought. I'm gonna get a little fangry. Feel free to bleep me out.
Boy.
Jamie, look that up. Just joking. So, you know what? This goes out to all the internet trolls. Every time I ever see anything about the Beatles, and I know I've been stroking them all night, but this needs to be said. They cannot. It's impossible. They cannot be overrated. It's not a thing. Like, people are like, I hate the Beatles. You could say you don't like them.
Yep.
You could say whatever you want. You could say I don't prefer them. You can't say they suck, and you can't say they're overrated. It's impossible, and if you feel that way, you're just ignorant. Like, I'm sorry, that's how I feel, and it's just a lack of understanding. And, like, seriously, a lack of understanding. So, that's a little passionate, but I feel that way.
People who think like that, if anything, to them, the Beatles are underrated because they don't see the true appreciation of what the Beatles are.
I would put the Beatles and random artist side note. I would put the Beatles and James Brown like solely responsible for modern music.
Ooh.
Pretty much period. I would say period.
Yeah.
Like it all will boil down to that: the Beatles, the four of them, and James Brown. As far as rhythm and modern songwriting.
Yeah, then you go to James Brown, and then like go down the line. That's what I'm saying. Then you go to like Michael Jackson, and then you got fucking Bruno Mars, like going down that route, and then yeah, you're right. Actually, it's pretty accurate.
So you can't really, you can't not have that conversation without the Beatles. So
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think everyone is entitled to their opinion, and you don't have to like everything.
Oh yeah.
But I still think you should be able to understand the reality of certain situations and certain things, and you can't deny stuff like the fact that the Beatles were the biggest band. They literally influenced all of music. I mean, they were making music that has lasted forever and has influenced pretty much almost like every artist that you can name. Like it's one of those, how it go back to the John Bonham thing.
Yep.
You ask any like successful artist or not, I would almost say 90% of them are going to say the Beatles are a great band and influenced them in some sort of way. Or their influences were influenced by the Beatles. Like, at the end of the day, they're definitely a core in music. And if you can't understand that, then, I mean, it's just not for you, I guess, you know? But
That's like, dude, I hear that from some, like, and I love metal music. I hear that from metalheads. Beatles suck. Dude, newsflash. Ozzy, biggest Beatles fan of all time.
Yep.
You're done. Stop talking. Like, I can have a rebuttal for everybody.
Jack White's also a crazy Beatles guy. Have you seen that video where he names the songs
Just
in like
by hearing
a second?
yep.
They literally play like a bunch of Beatles songs, like deep tracks, whatever, like a second of it, and he names literally every single one. It's crazy, dude. Like he definitely has completely went into that catalog, and it just goes to show, man. I mean, they are who they are. It's hard to be overrated when you are actually that good and successful. Like, I mean, even if you don't like it, you know.
Be the man, you got to beat the man.
You know, like I'm not a 80s hair metal guy, but I'm not going to sit here and say that shit wasn't, you know, great and it wasn't like huge. I'm not going to deny the fact that it wasn't like the biggest thing in the 80s. Like,
It was lit.
You know, well, I mean, I guess besides your pop music and Michael Jackson and stuff, but for rock music, you know, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and be a denier. Like, it's just not for me. But, well, is that it? Is that what we got for today?
One more thing: Beatles have Christmas music. Rolling Stones don't have Christmas music.
Random Thoughts by Larry Huff.
You heard that one, Jagger, Keith, get on it. You got about
You're
I
still
don't
alive.
know, not a lot of time left. So hopefully this Christmas.
Keith Richards is gonna outlast us all. He's a fucking cockroach in a nuclear bomb.
He is a cockroach. He's a human cockroach.
Okay, that has been Arbor Creek's Battle Supreme episode 3.
Thank you for listening.